Okay, so in this video, we're going to look at fills, dynamics, and structure that make up Yabba Dabba. So we have a 2-bar count off, and on the second bar, we play a snare on the and of 4, and it's 40, so this is like a big entrance here. And then we're into the groove. So that second bar count off, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, crack, boom, and we're in, okay? So that needs to be really strong. It's an accent and it's 40. We have a 2-bar groove, and then at bar 3, that's where we start to introduce that open hi-hat that we talked about in the groove video. So it's a 2-bar phrase for the groove, and we repeat those 2 bars, and then we take the first time ending at bar 7. So bar 7, similar groove. Bar 8, similar, but at the end of that bar, there's a small fill that leads in to the second groove. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Okay? So that's 2 on the snare, 3, E, and 4, and then the and on the tom. So I'll play from the first time ending, which is bar 7. And then we're into that second groove there. Bar 10, also the second groove, and then there's a small fill at the end of that. And if you're listening to the horns, the rhythm that we play locks in with the horns. So it's on beat 3, 3, E, and ah. So we're going to have 2 hands on the toms here, small tom and floor tom, 3, E, nothing on and then a crash and a kick on the of beat 3. And that's tied over to beat 4, which again, we don't hit that on beat 4, we just let it ring for the value of that note. And then bar 11, we're back to the same groove that we done at the beginning. Bar 12, a very small fill at the end of the groove on beat 4, 4 and. If you look closely, we repeat back to bar 3, and the first beat there is our open hi-hat with the kick drum. So you want your right hand to be playing that, but your right hand is also playing on the and of 4 on the floor tom. So you got to be pretty quick in getting your hand from the floor tom over to that open hi-hat. So then we play our 4 bars of groove at bar 3, and then we jump the first time ending because we've already played it, and we take that second time ending at the bottom of the page. And then we have 2 bars of our groove, and on beat 4 we have a small fill that leads into that second rhythm. Again on beat 4, 4, E, and. Really similar to in the first time ending, but slightly different. So here's what that fill sounds like. I'll play from the start of the second ending. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that fill leads into our second groove, where we're on the right cymbal and the side stick, on the toms. And then at the top of the second page, in bar 10, we have those same hits on beat 3 that we have from earlier. 3, E, and ah. The tie, so it rings over for all of beat 4. On the next bar, we just have 1 quaver hit. So it's going to be your open hi-hat, your snare, and your kick all together. And because it has a value of a quaver, you're not going to let your hi-hat ring out. You're going to close your hi-hat on the and of 1, okay? So that it's nice and short. So I'll play 2 bars before that 1 hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then for this whole bar, we don't play anything else. And then we go into this big fill that leads into the solo. Let's break this one down. So the first half, beats 1 and 2, we have a flam, that's on 1, and then the kick. So 1, E, and and we see a tie here, so we don't play on 2, but then we do play on the and of 2, and that's on the floor tom. So 1, E, and 2, E. So I'm going to play all crotchets on the hi-hat here, and I'm going to loop that a couple times just so you can hear what beats 1 and 2 sound like, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, moving on to beats 3 and 4. The floor tom that we play on the and of 2 that is tied. So we don't play the first semiquaver on beat 3. So we play the 2 semiquavers on the snare, and then we have 2 semiquavers on the second tom, 2 semiquavers on the floor tom, and then we have a kick on the very last semiquaver, but we also have a kick on 1. So it's almost doubles all around the kit. 2 on the snare, 2 on the second tom, 2 on the floor tom, and then it's 2 on the kick, but the second one of the kick lines up to beat 1 of the next bar. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to play crotchets and the hi-hat again. I won't play beats 1 and 2, and I'll play just beats 3 and 4 so that you can see how this goes. And there was a crescendo there. Hopefully you heard me playing that. Make sure to really hit that crescendo over beats 3 and 4. Just drop it down a little bit so your 2 on the snare are a little bit quiet, a little bit louder on the tom, loud on the floor tom, and then really loud with the kick because we're bringing it up to fortissimo. So here's what the whole bar should sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that leads into our third rhythm that we had a look at in the groove video. It's a 1 bar groove. We repeat that for 4 bars and then we drop down a line, 5, 6, 7, and then in bar 8 we have a fill. Now if anyone was really watching, I played a crash in bar 17. It's not written, but I felt like it added a little bit to the song because it was really repetitive to just play the same thing. So if you want to do that, you're free to do that as well. So we repeat that rhythm right up until bar 20. Now the ride pattern changes a little bit in bar 20. So we have our 1 and 2 and 3 and. So in beat 3 it's just quavers. So we still have our snare on every beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that's just a little fill that leads into bar 21. So here's what that bar sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're back to a similar groove that we started the song with, but we have a 1 bar groove and then we have solo. So drum solo here. It's really dynamic. So we have a bar groove and then we have a solo, and that's mezzo piano. And then we have a bar groove and then another solo, this time mezzo forte, a bar groove at bar 25, solo again, but this is forte, and then we go into the next bar, which is fortissimo. So the point of this is to just build up the dynamics into that final groove. Now you should have another page that has fills for Yabba Dabba written out. So we're going to take a look at these now so that you can use them in the solo. We're going to take a look at number 1 first of all. Lots of flams here, so I hope you've been practicing your flams. So we got flam, kick flam, kick flam, kick flam, kick flam, flam. So just moving around the kit. Snare, tom, tom, floor tom, snare, snare. So here's what that one sounds like on its own. 1, 2, 3, 4. And moving on to fill number 2, we have a triplet in here. So we have a flam and then a triplet that leads into beat 2. So our flam is on the snare, and then we have snare, high tom, floor tom. That makes up our triplet. And then we have a kick after the triplet. So what that's going to sound like is this. This is just beats 1 and 2. There's a sort of shape to this one. Flam, triplet, kick, flam, triplet, kick, flam. Right? So it's the same thing, it just repeats, but you gotta watch what beat that they fall on. So our flam is on 1, triplet on the and, kick is on 2, then our flam is on the and of 2, triplet on 3, kick on the and of 3, flam on 4. So there's a shape to it, it's the same thing that repeats, just starts at different times. So here we go. Now, fill number 3. This one should look familiar because the first half of fill 3 is actually fill number 1 and the second half of fill 3 is fill number 2. So here's what fill number 3 sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so in this video we're going to look at fills, dynamics and structure that make up Yabba Dabba. And moving on to fill number 4, it does the same thing as fill 3. It takes the first half of fill 2 and then the second half of fill 1. So we've already played all this before. It's just playing it in a different order. So here's what this one sounds like. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that was a look at our fills. If you're having any trouble with them, just break it down, take it slow, and practice it slower until you get it. So going back to the piece, bar 21, we have the groove, and then we have a bar of solo, which is mezzo piano. You can really use any of these fills here, but what I would recommend is fill number 1 for bar 22, and then we play bar 23. Bar 24, fill number 2, and it's mezzo forte, so bring the volume up a little bit here, okay? Bar 25, we play the groove. Bar 26, forte, and you can choose between fill 3 or fill 4, whichever one you like. So try it a few times, play number 3, play number 4, play 3 again, play 4, whichever one you prefer, just choose it. And then bar 27, we're fortissimo, so really hit those drums here. It's the same groove as the beginning, and then we have a small fill in bar 28, and this is an interesting one because the hi-hat still plays on beat 4. In order to play this with the hi-hat, on beat 3, you're going 3 and right? So you've got 3 and on the hi-hat, and then you've got on the snare. But then you also play beat 4 on the snare. So you've got 2 semiquavers that come fast on the snare on the left hand. Like with the bass drum in the groove, keep them nice and clean, all right? We want to know that it's 2 semiquavers and not just a mess, right? So make sure that they're nice and clean. And then right hand up to the tom. 3, 4, and. Okay? So here's what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3. And then to end, bar 29, we have our second groove again. And we have the same hits in bar 30 as we played before. 3E and That tie lets it ring out for beat 4. And then like in the second time ending, we have that hit for a quaver on beat 1. Remember, close the hi-hat on the and of 1. And then this is where you're going to have to count. 1E and 2E and Okay, so we hit on the last semiquaver, beat 2. Same thing, open hi-hat snare and the kick drum, but this is really short. It's only for the value of a semiquaver. It's going to be 1E and 2E and Okay, really short, really short, really sharp. And these are fortissimo, so we want them to be loud and short, okay? And that's it for the whole of Yabba Dabba. So we've looked at the groove, we've looked at all the fills and dynamics. The main thing are these solos from bar 21 going forward. So just really bring out the dynamics here. Make your first one mezzo piano. Make sure your second one's mezzo forte. And make sure the third one is forte, right? We want to see that build up of dynamics here. And then fortissimo to end, so really loud, really strong. So that's everything for Yabba Dabba. Go get practicing, and we'll see you in the next video.